Thank you, Chair. Can I reiterate James Daly's comments about how we clearly need more of these facilities? I just want to get an understanding, what's the status of the women that you are dealing with in terms of their reliance on their abusive partner for being in the country or for whatever application for settled status they might be going through. I can see absolutely in the short term they need to be a place of safety, be it a refuge or with whatever support services. But in the longer term, what's the aim? What's the intention for women are wanting to stay here permanently or for a prescribed time because it's part of studies or whatever? What is the status of the women largely you're dealing with?
It varies. So a lot of the women come over as dependents on a spousal visa. Yeah, so they're dependent on the husband for the 5 years, and then they have a route to indefinite leave to remain. So if during that 5 years there's domestic abuse and they leave, then they are no longer seen as being on that spouse visa because they're not dependent. So that's why the domestic abuse, the DDV concession was brought in, so that they can then claim, they can have some funding temporarily while they get limited leave, and then they put their application in for the domestic abuse rule, under the domestic abuse rule. So they would continue, in a way, I suppose, their route to indefinite leave to remain. So they had that right when they came to join their husband, and it's only the domestic abuse that stopped them doing that. For other women, say we have women that have maybe come over with a husband and the husband is on a business visa. So if she leaves him, she has no route to safety. If she leaves him, then she has no recourse to public funds and she's homeless and destitute. It might be that the woman has come over as a student and has met somebody who she then moves in with, and the guy says, "Don't worry, I'll sort out your immigration status." She leaves college, and so if there's then violence, she leaves. She has no recourse to public funds. She might be on a visitor visa. She might be, for a woman that. Can I give you a case history? Have we got time for the case history? Okay, we had a Nigerian woman who was, needed to get out of Nigeria. She was being persecuted, facing violence from her family because of her sexuality. They had seen her together with her girlfriend. She came over on a visitor visa. She didn't know about claiming asylum. She had no idea. So she came over to visit her sister. So she stayed with her sister, but obviously she had no income. The sister struggled. The sister kicked her out. She was on the street, no recourse to public funds. And she met this guy who said, "I'll give you a roof over your head." So she went with him. And eventually the visitor visa ran out. He said, "Don't worry about it. We'll sort out your visa. I'll sort out your visa." But he became violent. Increasingly violent, and she became pregnant. She didn't know who to turn to. She went to the hospital and actually had a miscarriage because of his violence, but unfortunately she didn't have any safe space to tell the hospital staff. He came in, made sure she didn't. She returned to that after the miscarriage. And then the next episode of violence was so severe that she called the police, ran out the house. The police came, they arrested him. She went, and they took her to the council hostel where she could stay overnight only because she was no recourse. They couldn't keep her in a room, so she stayed on a bed. They told her to go to the local authority homelessness service. She went there. They said, recourse, we can't do anything, go to social services. She didn't have any money. She was in a bad way because of the miscarriage. So she actually tried to walk to social services. didn't make it, collapsed, and a guy on the street said, "Can I help you?" He gave her a phone, said, "You can come and stay with my sister." She didn't know him, but luckily for her, and it could have turned very nasty, it didn't. She went back to this, his sister, I think it was. So she went to his sister's house, and with the phone that they'd given her, she was given, when she was at the council hostel, a number for Immigration Aid Unit. So she rang Immigration Aid Unit, who we work in partnership with, and she came to us. And the first thing we did was get her off the streets, because she had had no further contact with the police, and she didn't know whether the abuser was still running around looking for her. So this is, I know I'm diverting from what you're saying originally, but the first thing we did was give her food. She hadn't eaten.
It's an interesting and drastic case. I'm
just going to point out, God, wasn't she incredibly lucky, that guy who took her to his sister? It could have been anybody, couldn't there? Jesus Christ, that's heartbreaking.